Hello and welcome to Americans Talk Australian Survivor. I'm Rachel.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Matt.
Thanks for joining us. We just watched episode 9 of Australian Survivor Australia versus the World, and there will be spoilers ahead. We open up on the final 5 on day 14. How exciting that we finally made it to the final 5. This is a huge moment for all of the players, and we have a very exciting group. So we have our 2 U.S. representatives, Parvati and Suri, as well as our 3 Aussies, Janine, Luke, and Shawnee. So, as we know from last episode, we have a core 4 that's really vying for Final 4, and that's Parvati, Suri, Janine, and Luke, and they're all getting together at this point and saying it is imperative for Shawnee to lose immunity challenge.
So we see Parvati speaking, and she's talking about this as a dream, that she's here, that she's made it this far, and she's so excited that she and Suri were able to be here together.
And if she wants to rewrite history
Right.
with Suri. So
It
that's
is
cool.
Yeah, it's really nice to see these two, especially as Americans who are watching our U.S. Representatives over here. And it is pretty fun to see that they were in a very similar situation before. Parvati wanted Final 3 with Suri. Suri got cut out because it was only a Final 2. And now there's this opportunity to kind of redo it. And so this is pretty awesome because we see a lot of times, everyone comes in with these big plans of who's going to be their Final 3 and, who they want to work with until the end. And not only have Parvati and Suri made it to Final 5 together, they've been able to make it, through seasons together. So it's pretty exciting to see this lifelong friendship.
And no one broke them up in this whole game.
Right? Yeah. No, they're sticking to it. So I thought it was interesting because then Janine's talking about how she wants to make it to the Final 3 and she has to figure out how she has to get there. And then she goes to Parv and they're both very excited. And Suri also saying the girls could be the Final 3.
Right. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Janine saying that basically she wants to get to the Final 3 no matter what. So if, we're going to have these 2 Americans, 2 Aussies in this 4, who's going to crack? She's saying, I'll make an all-girls deal. I don't care. I want to make it there, which makes sense.
Right.
But then on the flip side, we see Luke and Janine talking about, well, what if Shawnee does win? We have this Final 4 that we're hoping for. Well, they're hoping for. But what happens if Shawnee wins immunity today? Then they're saying they think that they'll vote for Suri, which is interesting because, again, we've talked about this in prior episodes. Parvati is such a threat. Why is no one taking a shot at her?
I don't know. I can't figure it out.
Right. And then Shawnee just brings up that Janine is a threat, with her public speaking abilities.
Well, I thought that was a good. Yeah, she says she's the most successful businesswoman in Australia.
Right. Right.
So congratulations to Janine. That's something else.
And it's unbelievable that she can also take the time away and do this because you just think a lot of people like that wouldn't take the time to go and play the game. So it's great that she does this.
Well, unless she has a great team and she knows she can rely on them, probably.
Yeah.
Sure, but she does public speaking. What would she say, once a month or whatever? Yeah, and so I think Shawnee made a good point.
Yes,
put her in front of the jury, and she's going to knock their socks off probably with her speech.
I thought Shawnee did this very nicely. We see her just kind of saying like, "Oh wow, I'm scared of public speaking," just very casually walking Janine into this role of saying, I'm a great speaker. I get people to do what I want. She's really setting it up so well that as the viewer, we're like, oh my gosh, you can't take Janine to the Final 3. She'll beat you. But I do think that at this point, Shawnee's not emphasizing her point. She's subtly making her point to Parvati and Suri, don't sit next to Janine, but I think that she needed to then pull them aside and say, hey, did you hear Janine just said she's very powerful? You can't take her to the Final 3. And I'm worried that this gets lost in translation.
Right. And then also just say it at tribal too. It wouldn't hurt, right? Plant that seed in the head. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it's something to think ahead.
Do. Right. Well, so then we go to immunity. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, so this is a complicated one. They have to go over the ramp with their, what do they call it, their monkey fist, and then they go through the monkey bars, and there's just a lot of monkey business going on in this episode. It looks incredibly difficult. And we see Luke and Shawnee are both doing really well in this balance kind of obstacle portion, and it's neck and neck. Shawnee's going out first, but then Luke comes by, and he gets that, not to pull down the balance beam.
Oh, yeah,
it looks like he's gonna win. Yeah, and then finally we get to the point, the main challenge kind of where they have to walk through those slots.
Obstacle course.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then they have to
Yeah.
balance all these cups. We've seen the variation of this before. But as always, it seems like every time they do a challenge like this, it's always a windy day and the wind is always an aspect, and today is no different. So first the wind knocks down Luke and then Shawnee, and then everyone's like, "Oh, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be?" At this point, I'm rooting for Shawnee. I feel like she's the underdog in this
Me too.
episode,
Mhm.
and let's shake it up. Let's not see Luke win a third immunity.
Right. I
But
wanted her to win just to see what would happen. Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Like who is going to go home if she wins?
yeah, well,
She was
unfortunately,
so close.
she was very close. But Luke pulled out his third immunity win in a row, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
So I
It
would have
is.
liked
Hat trick.
Shawnee. Yeah, I would have liked Shawnee to make it to the final four with this necklace. But I do have to give Luke credit. I think this is another move to add to his resume that not only has he forced Parvati to rip up an advantage earlier in the game, he has now won 3 consecutive immunity challenges. He does have a lot going for him when he sits at the final tribal. And I am rooting for Luke as well. So this is good for him.
Right. It's funny. JLP called him Cool Hand Luke, which is
Did he?
yeah,
Yeah.
a movie reference.
Oh, well, I was thinking another thing though about if Shawnee had won, she would have had her necklace, and then we know that we have these 2 idols, and I'm thinking, wow, that would have been cool because now Shawnee's safe, and now Parvati and Luke, do they keep themselves safe? And now I thought that would have been a lot of fun for Shawnee to be safe, plus those 2, but didn't happen like
Yes.
that.
That would have been good TV.
Right.
Instead, we head back to
But
the
it,
beach for the scramble. Were you
And
going to say
Janine,
something else?
Suri, and Parv are talking, and then Parv tells Janine that did Luke tell you about his idol?
And Jean says, "Oh, no, he doesn't have an idol." And she said, "Well,
Yeah.
I kind of have this sense that maybe he might. Why don't you ask him to see if he'll give you an idol?"
And then she goes and asks him, and Luke says no.
I know.
And then he's like, it's afterwards, he showed me, he said it's his secret. And he said, in a good thing, he said, Parv doesn't know I really have it. He just said I have one, but she did not see the idol.
Something to be learned here for future games.
Yeah, it is crazy that Parvati ripped up her advantage and she didn't even see Luke's idol. That, I mean,
Right.
you have to give him that. That was pretty good.
She
But
ripped it up and gave half of it away, so she couldn't even put it together. Right.
the
Yeah.
odd thing in this situation, though, is that it's the last night to play an idol, and Luke would be, I think, remiss to not play it because he has the opportunity to do something with his idol. So of course it's going to come up. Janine's going to find out in, about 6 hours that he has an idol. Why not tell his number one about the idol? I don't see what the disadvantage is that he's trying to avoid.
Right. And Shawnee made that great observation that he didn't seem very excited when he won the third immunity challenge in a row.
Yeah.
And so she suspects that he had an idol. So
Right.
that's pretty detective-like observation.
Right.
Yeah. Well, last episode we talked about how we didn't feel that we were seeing Shawnee play enough, but she's playing today. She comes out,
Yeah.
she pitches staying Aussie strong to Janine and Luke. She's finally back, and we're thinking, Luke, you've been saying this all season that you want to stay Australian strong. Here's your opportunity. But Shawnee just doesn't feel like they're on board. So then she asks Luke for an idol, and no one will give him. No one will give up. Luke will not give up his idol for anyone.
Right.
Well, then we see that Suri's a little bit worried, but she shouldn't be too worried because Shawnee walks right up to Parvati and Suri and pitches that final 3. So then Shawnee walks up to Suri and Parvati and pitches an all-girls final 3 with her.
And I think that would have been a good idea. Why not? Those would be 3 powerful women. They're worried about Luke. You don't need to worry about Luke. And then the business about Janine being such a big businesswoman, I think those 3 would be a good 3.
I agree. That would be exciting to have those 3.
I would have been happy to see the final 3 as those 3 women. And, Shawnee, I think, like we've said, she got out the king. Other than that, she's kind of laid low. I think this would have been a big move for her to kind of overturn this final 4. So those would be her main 2 roles on her resume. But I still think that Parvati could beat Shawnee, whereas she may have a much harder time beating Luke. So for her sake, I would have said she should go with Shawnee to the final 3. So
Yes, I see that.
Right. If they could get Luke out now, that would be a big win for anybody because he keeps winning all these challenges. And what makes you think he's not going to win the next one?
Yeah. So we know that he has the necklace, but if you can get out Janine and get out his number one, that kind of sets you up a little bit differently. So Suri wants to keep her options open, but she still is pretty set on the final four. And I'm just thinking, well, why? I see that, initially a couple votes ago, it did make sense when we kind of locked in this final four. It felt good, but now we're at final five. What's going to happen tomorrow night? I don't really see the advantage of going to the end with Janine and Luke over Shawnee and Luke.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see the advantage unless the idea is just to get rid of Luke, and that way they can say, look, we have 3 women at the end, and that's what our goal was from day one.
Well, why not do that with Shawnee?
Well, yeah,
that's true. You're right.
Cerise,
and I guess the idea to do that would be to just get rid of Luke, like I said a minute ago. Yeah.
Well, Cerise finds out from Parv that Luke has an idol, and now she's getting worried and thinks, oh, what if Luke gives the idol to Shawnee, right?
Yeah,
and then she'll be out.
Yeah, she absolutely should be worried about this because, yeah, who knows? But they are very suspicious because, well, why does Janine not know about the idol, but Parvati does? And I have to agree. I think this goes back to what we've been saying all season. Somehow, Parvati just manipulates people so well. I think something about her energy just draws people in to tell their secrets to her. I don't know what it is, but somehow she's able to make people feel so comfortable that they want to work with her and they want to tell her things. And somehow she is able to hear about this advantage before his number one. And that's unbelievable.
I would think many of us have met somebody who you feel, like you can like almost reveal anything to, or you feel very open to, and you tell them things that you wouldn't tell normal people. And maybe that's just the way she is when you see her, when you're just hanging out eating rice or working on a fire. And maybe she just has that,
Well, she must be charismatic, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's been working out for her so far. So it makes sense why she's back for, a 5th round of Survivor.
And meanwhile, Shawnee's saying she's a free girl looking for some friends. Come on, someone pick her up, right? She wants to be friends with some people.
Yeah. So then Luke pitches to himself in a confessional that maybe crazy Luke will come out tonight. He's saying, well, if he does save Shawnee with his idol tonight, that would kind of lock in her loyalty where she would feel obligated to then bring him to final 3. And I'm thinking, that does make sense. That's a huge move.
Yes.
I agree.
For sure she would feel like she owed him. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. We've spoken a lot in prior seasons about when is the time to take out your number one. And we see some people do it way too early, like Kirby and Sarah did, on first jury vote. And then sometimes we see it happen too late to the point where they both end up in the final 2 and then you're pitching the same game. And I think final 5 is really the perfect time because final 4, it doesn't really come down to a vote. It comes down to fire. So 5 is your last time to really make a move that's truly yours and not based on someone else's ability to make fire or something like that. So I think this is the absolute perfect time for Luke to play a unique game of flipping on Janine at this point, saying, she carried me up until this point. Now I'm taking Shawnee because we've played a different game. I don't want Janine's moves to be seen as my own. I want to differentiate myself when I'm sitting in front of the jury. And I thought that would have been perfect for him.
Yeah, it sounds like an excellent idea, Rachel.
And I think Shawnee would take him to the final 3 if it's her choice.
Yeah.
Right? If she had any say in the matter. And I'm not sure getting Parv to rip up her advantage and then expect her to take you to the final 3 seems like a stretch.
Yeah, I feel
he's going to say, I got her to do that, and she's sitting right next to me. Vote for me. But if he's not there, if she can get him out at the final 4, then yeah. So that's what I would say. Keep Shawnee in the game.
Yeah, I agree. Well, then we head into tribal, and we don't know what's going to happen. Suri's talking about how we have really high caliber players and really big threats, and no one gets to final 5 just on accident. And I have to agree. I think this is part of what is making this a tough vote is that everyone is good at the game. So we'll see what happens. We do see Parvati pull a King George, we'll call it. She pulls out her idol and said she wants it to match Luke's necklace. She puts it around her neck. This is now the second time we've seen Parvati do this with the exact same idol.
And she says she'll play it for either herself or Suri. And then Luke says, well, I have one and I will play either for myself or Shawnee.
Well, before he does that, Luke grabs Janine and they have this very interesting talk in the corner.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yes.
very strange.
Right.
So I
We
didn't really understand what was going on. So Luke says, if we make it to final four, will you promise that I'll go to fire? I'm thinking, why does Luke want to go to fire? Does he want it on his resume that he was able to take out Parvati or Suri by making fire?
I think he was just afraid that maybe she would pick Shawnee and then he'd be out of it altogether, or that he knows the three women are going to be the final three, and he's just saying, just give me a chance.
Or maybe he knows that he can make fire better than anyone else who's there.
But if he's that worried, then hello, take Shawnee.
Yeah.
He should
Mhm.
not be thinking, if he's that worried, there's no question, get rid of Janine.
And I never thought that he'd hand over the
The
necklace.
necklace. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Right. But
crazy.
maybe he did that. I don't know. I mean, she could give the necklace away too, right? Can she
Yeah.
give that
I
away
think
before
so.
She could.
before they count the votes? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but you have
The
to,
whole thing was
the
just
necklace
very
has to be
strange.
worn before you play the votes, right? That's who you can't vote for in the game.
right. So then that way but if he gave her the idol, she could play it at any time down to the last second. And
Yeah. It makes sense, I guess, why he gave her the necklace in place of the idol. But I feel like if we get to the point where it's time to read the votes and Luke is wearing the necklace, so no votes were cast for him, and then he plays an idol for Janine, it's kind of like, expected. But him giving the necklace to Janine and then not knowing who the idol is going to be played for, that's a twist. That's a little bit different.
yes.
That's even a more slap in the face to Shawnee. I wish she would have won, because she needed that. And she was that close to winning. And what a slap in the face by him. Oh, I earned this, but I'm going to give it away.
Yeah,
It's just horrible.
And they kind of kicked her around a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I may play it for her. I may play it for her.
Hello. The three of you are from Australia. Stick together. I just cannot figure out this season.
Well, I did think it was very interesting. I thought that, I guess, the giving away the necklace was kind of locking in his trust with Janine. I think he's trying to show to the jury, I have this number one that I trust so completely that I'm going to give her my immunity necklace. That's pretty interesting. But then also, I'm looking at this group of people. I'm saying, okay, final five, one man, four women. Suri and Parvati are on on the blocks. This is exactly what happened to Eric. He gave away his necklace and got voted out. But luckily, I'm glad that Luke played an idol eventually. I was nervous for a minute that they were going to pull one of those on him.
Well, even that was so strange that both of them are going to gave one up to Jonathan, gave it to together. They had to say each other's name. I just thought, I'm sorry, this is negative, but I just thought it was stupid.
I was just hoping that he would have her say it first and say, well, I haven't decided whether I'm going to play mine or not. And then make her play it. And
Make
then
Parvati
say,
play.
yeah, make Parv play it and then hand it over for Shawnee.
Well,
Play it for
I guess
Shawnee.
at the end of the day, Luke didn't want Shawnee to remain in the game. So that would have been, I guess, that's why he didn't play the idol for her, because he didn't want her in the game. I would have
Right.
preferred that he kept the necklace for himself. He stayed safe in that way, and then he played the idol for Shawnee. I think that would have been the ideal scenario for me. That way, Shawnee gets saved. I guess then he risks his number one, Janine, going home. But I don't know.
I don't know. It was just strange. So then when they're going up to vote, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Cass said when Shawnee walked by, oh, she's good. I thought that was nice.
Well,
Mhm.
I thought she was doing well too, but it didn't pan out because finally it's time to read the votes. Janine was unable to be voted for due to the necklace. Parvati and Luke, eventually, after a very long, drawn out situation, finally both play an idol for themselves. And the only two people available to receive votes are Suri and Shawnee. Again, very similar to the last time Suri got voted out of Survivor, where everyone had an advantage or an idol, and she was the only one eligible to be voted for. So, a lot of weird kind of parallels coming back in this big world stage.
Yes.
So we see a vote for Suri, and then everything else is for Shawnee, sending her home at the final five. So that was too bad to see Shawnee go. I would have
think it
liked to
was a
see her in the
big
final
mistake.
three. Yeah, do
Very,
you
very
think?
big mistake.
So based on Luke letting Shawnee leave the game pretty much by not playing his idol for her, do you think that Luke can win at a final three with any of the women?
Well, the women say they're going to be a final three themselves, right? They're cutting out Luke.
But if he wins, if he
Right.
stands on those pegs long enough or whatever.
Yeah, but he's not good at that kind of stuff. He just isn't
Well,
good at that.
well, remember the final four includes fire, so it's not just about who you're taking; it's about who earns their spot.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll have to see on next Sunday. But then did you see the confessional? It was kind of Shawnee says she's going to hang up her little red dress forever. And then she says, I'm coming for your Jonathan's job.
I know.
Wow, that was weird.
That's an odd thing to say.
Yeah, so we had all those discussions about, did David know that he was going to be the host already? And apparently there were at least discussions about replacing Jonathan because Shawnee was after the job.
Unless she was just saying it. Because, I don't think she meant it. I just think she didn't know anything. I just thought
It's
she
just a
said that.
coincidence that she said
That's
it.
what I thought. But I will miss that red dress is very cute and we will miss her. It's just too
Well,
bad.
hopefully we'll see Shawnee on a different show one day, or maybe she'll change her mind and come back in a couple years.
Right. Hey, here's a thought I had. What if at the beginning of the season they said since there's so few players, everybody's on the jury? That would have
been nice.
right?
Yeah.
Because having 12 people on the jury or 10 people isn't really that many. There really aren't going to be that many people on the jury now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been nice, especially since every player was such a big deal. Every player was a significant player from a past season. It would have been fun to see them have a say in the end of the game.
Right. They're experts in the show.
I guess the issue then is that do you count the vote from the person who was voted out on day one with the same weight as the person, Shawnee, who was voted out on day 14?
Yeah, I think so, because they get to go to tribal council and see what happens each episode. They get to go to tribal council.
I don't
And
know.
that's where you have to plead your case. You gotta, right? Just an idea. It's too late now.
Well, it would have been an interesting idea for the next short season or returnee season. Let us know. Maybe we'll make it a poll over on Instagram. So head over there to vote on Instagram at ATA Survivor, TikTok at ATA Survivor, and send us an email at ataustraliansurvivor@gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next week for the finale.
Woohoo! Bye.
Bye.